In the 90s, the Sheldon Clark wrestling program was a dynasty. They had Bruce Stepp, Archie Stepp, Chris Goss. They had 2 team state championships in 94 and 95. But they also had the Rhodes brothers. And if you're a fan of professional wrestling like me, you can't have wrestling without somebody with the last name Rhodes. So, sir, if you would, tell us who you are.
Yeah, I'm Scott Rhodes, and actually, he's my cousin, not my brother. We just happen to live together. Yeah.
I guess whenever I say brothers, you know how professional wrestling is. Everybody, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Arn Anderson,
Oh, yeah.
Ole Anderson. You know how it goes. But
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. So, but yeah, I lived with my aunt and uncle, and basically we came in from West Virginia due to work because they were working down here, and we went to school in Martin County. So they ended up wrestling at Sheldon Clark, and then my freshman year, I also wrestled at Sheldon Clark, coming up from the Inez Middle School.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, it was you, Jeremy. I think Steve was on that somewhere in there. Is that correct?
Yep. Steve was on the 95 team that won, and that's Jeremy's brother. They won the 95, and I think he came in third or second or something. He had another high placing performance, but I think he came in third that year.
I got you. So you kind of said you come from middle school or the elementary school, middle school there. How do you did you wrestle in West Virginia and then just transferred over to Kentucky, or did you just pick up as a freshman and go, or how'd that work?
Yeah, so all of us are originally from Ripley, West Virginia, and then we started wrestling when my uncle was the one who actually started, Rod. He got us into the Parkersburg Cougars, which was kind of like a wrestling dynasty up in West Virginia. So we would drive up from Ripley to Parkersburg, and it was originally the YMCA, the Parkersburg Y Cougars, and they basically won states, held Cougar Classics. We go to Pennsylvania. We were like a really high-profile wrestling program. So from the time I was really young onward, it was wrestling was basically the whole life. And so winning West Virginia junior, like the state championships and that from when I was little, like that was kind of expected of us in the family. We all had, a series of state wins and stuff like that.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, Jeremy's dad also was a referee. Am I right about that?
Yes, he did. He loved being a ref.
That's what I thought, because when Coach Matney, rest in peace, Coach Matney, when he was at Johnson, the first time I met Jeremy, he was coaching, and I don't remember the name of the team. I think they had purple singlets, purple shirts, and he introduced himself, and he said that his dad officiated. He said, to me, the other refs that were there, like, you guys are doing a great job today. My dad's official. I'm 2-time state champion at Sheldon Clark. So it's kind of cool that it runs in the blood. But if you are, as it stands currently, you're the only freshman from Sheldon Clark or Martin County to win the high school state championship at wrestling.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And there's been, 19, and there's, like I said, Chris Goss, Bruce Stepp, Archie Stepp, you, Jeremy, Josh Priest, Josh Stepp, Josh Muncie, John Dowles, Derek Mullett, Xavier Manning, Billy Clark. I mean, we can go Ryan Kelly, Branson Smith, Dan Muncie. We can go on and on and on. But just some phenomenal wrestlers. But you're the only freshman. I kind of found that interesting. But let's go over your 96 bracket. Of course, like I just said, you're a freshman. The first round, you're wrestling Chad Skaggs from LaRue County. You win that by a 4-0 decision. The quarterfinals, you're wrestling Justin Hall from Dixie Heights, and it goes to overtime, and you win a 2-0 decision. Was overtime in 96, was it the first takedown, the first points, or was it the whole three?
First points. Yeah,
okay. Because we know
that match was the number 1 seed, if I remember right. I didn't know who he was, and afterwards, that exhausted me. That guy was way bigger and stronger than me, and we basically got into a situation where at the end I finally wore him down and got a takedown at the end. But I think he was the number 1 seed and was pretty much maybe even undefeated on the season. And that match was brutal.
I can believe it, man. Especially you know what's on the line. Quarterfinals. They're at the first year at the Dungeon. Sheldon Clark is coming off back-to-back team state championships. I mean, anybody in that red SCHS singlet, man, everybody's giving them 110%. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Everybody's Super Bowl. So you get to the semifinals, and you're wrestling Nick Martin from Louisville DeSales,
Hmm.
and you win that by a fall. So you went from a grueling match in the quarters to a fall to get into the state championship. Does Coach Matney, does Jeremy, does anybody else have been in the finals before come to you and say, hey, give you any words of wisdom, maybe like secret knowledge or anything like that? Or
Not really, because I mean we're used to being in the finals. Like I said, we've done this for a long time. I mean, Pennsylvania area finals, West Virginia state finals. We went up and wrestled Grundy and other places in Ohio and stuff. So like we're pretty used to rather large crowds. So it was just take care of business. And I was facing an opponent I'd faced 2 times before. So it was just like, hey, go win this one.
Well, that's good. And I would be remiss if I didn't say just about every time that one of Matney's wrestlers, whether it was at Martin County or Johnson, he would give them the speech, we are who we are. We're boys from the mountains. Don't you let anybody, especially from a big city, be able to think they're better people than you are. But you get to the finals, and you're wrestling Adam Northcutt from Harrison County. Yep. And had you wrestled Adam previously as that season or at another meet or anything like that?
And I'm trying to remember, I think it's sectionals, division, and state, or whatever the format was. There's 3 tournaments we had leading up to the states, and I wrestled him in the finals of every one of them, and they were always close matches. Yeah, I beat him the first one, he beat me the second one, and I beat him in the states.
Okay, so kind of this was the rubber match, if you will.
Yes, and it was close. It was a close match.
No, it's a don't say what happens, but it's a heck of a match. And we went down and we done some videos for we done a session at Harrison County, and Rick Dingus was the head coach. He's the one that started the program, and then Russ Regal also they're in the corner, and we done a video with Eric Dingus, which is Russ's son, and Rick's son, and they wanted to see this match because a bunch of people had heard about the finish, but they didn't know exactly what happened. They was like, "Oh, no way! What are we doing here?" So, have you seen your match in a while? Has it been a few days?
I saw it. I think it's been a couple months. I happen to be editing Jeremy's match down for a thing for him to make it into a smaller video from that larger one that they had posted. Mm-hmm. And I happened to watch it, and I was like, oh, it's interesting to see the younger version of yourself out there.
Yeah, that's a lot of guys say that same thing. So I'm going to pull up the screen here. So this is the first year at the Dungeon, 1996. We moved from Atherton High School to the Dungeon in Frankfort. Lights are on the mat. The crowd's pumping. It's just a phenomenal atmosphere. I'm ready to go, man. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
And 130 from Sheldon Clark with a 44-4 record in the 9th grade, Scott Rhodes.
There you go, man. Coming out. Got the hat on backwards.
Oh, yeah.
These warm-ups are just so 1990s era. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I love them. No, the hat's not on backwards. It's long hair, isn't it? No, it's on backwards. It's on backwards. Yeah. Okay. All right, here we go. So you've been wrestling all this time. Like, what was your best takedown? Where was you looking to do from neutral?
So it's a running joke that I don't really like to shoot, and I'm a very control-oriented. So I usually snap people down, put them in front headlocks, and work from there.
I got you.
I do a lot of upper body arm control, a lot of really just moving their bodies around, baiting them in to shoot because I have really strong legs, and I would just, sprawl into them. Here you go, front headlock.
There you go, right there. Go for that headlock.
And a lot of my pins and falls were from cradles. Like I would just out in there. But
he lifts you right there, but you don't appear to panic. Going for that good cross face.
One of my strengths, I rode legs a lot, and I was extremely hard to take down or get off of your back. So it was even Jeremy and the rest of them, trust me, they did not enjoy my style of wrestling a lot of times.
I can believe that. So they called for a stalemate, and I thought you got 2 there. It should have been 2, but
At the time, I knew the rule. Like if he still had my leg like that, they would never give you two. That was pretty standard.
Well, that must be because nowadays that's two with that leg hook. But this is. So there you go, trying to control that head again. Do you remember like hearing the crowd, how the cheers of the crowd, or could you pick out Coach Matney's voice? Or
Oh yeah, I could hear Matney and I could hear my Uncle Rod most of the time. But I mean, in general, unless they were telling me to do something specific, I had a game plan of get in here. I'm trying to, basically cut as much of his energy and wind off, cut his body into like, I'm fighting a half or, a quarter of his body, put pressure on him, but he's a lot stronger than me. So it's not exactly easy.
And that's smart, man, to, just, grind on somebody to where you only feel like you're wrestling a quarter of their body or a certain part of it. All right, that was a very fast second or first period. So I'm going to have to imagine that they deferred and you took down.
Yep.
It didn't show it, but that would be my guess, knowing Jim Matney the way I do.
Yep.
Now, on the bottom, this first time you've been down, are we looking to just reverse, stand up?
Yeah. So normally I form a pretty solid base, and then I'll get hand control, and then I'm going to rotate out and under almost every time. That's pretty much my signature thing, is to get them high, get them up off balance, and then rotate out from under and get free.
I get you. And that's something too that is kind of, I'm not saying it's a lost art, but you very rarely now see guys try hand control because they're so just versed in like the scramble that we see now.
Yep.
Very few times will you see hand control. Now, out there, he's a little high.
Block the arms from getting under and try to block the hooks. And the goal is to get hand control and then work your way out. If you can work your way under or around.
Mm-hmm.
And here, this is where the beginning of all the later drama. We start getting I'm not doing anything. I'm locking up and just holding Scott in place.
Yep. So he calls potentially dangerous, but I'm going to think he means stalemate. Because I didn't see nothing there that was potentially dangerous. But
same. It might have been what he's doing to the neck. Like there might have been something that we couldn't see through the body, because I know he started cramping on my neck, and maybe he considered some sort of safety. Usually I sit back, form a base, and like here you see, I'll go for hand control, and then I'm going to spin, get an arm, hook it, and usually get an escape.
There you go. You get your one, neutral.
Like I said, I don't normally shoot. It was not my thing.
There you go. Second lift of the bout so far. And we've said in other videos, you make it to this level, you know what you're good at. You know what you're not good at. You know what you can do, what you can't do. And if shooting's not your thing, then there's no sense in trying to, force it. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm also extremely smaller than these guys, and people don't realize how much weaker I am as a freshman. So, like, shooting into them just lets them bully right over the top of me. So, typically, it was not a good idea.
And right there, you got a takedown as time expired. So, that might come in handy later.
Yeah.
So, he's down, scrambling, going for that switch.
Tried to do a re-switch, and he got back around.
So, 3-1, you're up. There's Coach Matney over in the left-hand side corner.
We were both leg riders primarily. So, getting underneath that leg was like one of the key things to winning on the top-bottom situation. Here, I didn't do a very good job of stringing him out. I was getting kind of tired, you could tell. And I basically let him out of a couple headlocks where I normally would execute every one of them.
Yeah. I'd say, well, like you said, you've been in big matches before, but I'd have to imagine nerves and adrenaline are kind of flowing just a little bit.
Yeah. A lot of it's just exhaustion. I mean, I remember they're very strong. So one-on-one, I really have to try to move them around. I can't go head to head with them.
I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I'm doing too, Coach Matney added some of the other stuff too as well. A lot of that stuff's the things I was taught when I was at the Cougars, like about isolating the body and the body parts. Mm-hmm. And that carried along, like I learned a lot of the bottom wrestling is really like Granby shrug style stuff that I modified into what you see me do there with that little like solid base and rotate. And they were like, "You do the slowest Granby shrug I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah. There you are, trying for another headlock there.
If I were bigger and stronger, that would be perfect spots to do an underhook and just toss him.
Yep. And
Yeah, here's where, he almost puts me on my back.
so it's 3-3 now.
And he puts in legs. And at this point, the refs start saying, "Hey, you need to do something. You need to do something."
Yeah. And so that was the that's the what Harrison County was part there. Now you can see Coach Regal and Coach Dingus right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're letting them know just how good of a call that was. I mean,
Yeah, like throughout this match, every time we were on top and bottom, like the ref kept telling us, "You got to work on something. You got to be working on something. You got to keep moving."
yeah. So that earlier stalling call, that was his second one. So now you're up 4-5, and I think that's Gene Washington, and I don't know who the other ref. I'm sure one of the other refs will let me know who they are, but
it's funny too because the stalling things for both of us through all three matches was a pretty common thing. Because what happens is we ride legs and someone's on there and you just hold on, and so he would just hit up whoever is in the worst position for stalling.
Yeah. He's going optional start here. Cut you. 5-3. I don't know exactly how much time left, but there's not much.
Almost none. He goes for a cowboy.
Yep. You're able to block that, and that's the end of it, man.
Yep.
So
all I remembered from this too, at the end, I remember shaking the ref's hand, and I was like, "Hey, man, that was a good call."
Thanks a lot, Mr. Official. You go over and shake Harrison County coach's hand, and that's where this one ends. And like you got to watch it back a few months ago. Before you watched it, then as you was watching it when you were doing it the first time, did it kind of play out the way you remembered it?
Yeah, and I mean, I vividly remember multiple times, and it seems a lot shorter there. Of the ref was, because you might not see in the one, like I get when I got his leg earlier, and I was throwing him over the top. That's what really started all that. When he just grabbed both my hands and didn't move, and he did it again on the other part, and the ref was telling him he was going to hit him for stalling. So like he had an option. So I was like, hey man, he knew I was getting out, so he just grabbed on and just held. So it's like and we talked. It's a funny story. Actually, in the showers afterwards, myself, Jeremy, him, and the 120 or the 120-19 champion, or 40, the other Harrison County champion, we all just happened to hit at the same time. We were having the discussion. He's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I was just holding on."
Kevin Case, I believe, was his name.
Yeah. So like the four of us just happened to, we were all going afterwards because we all wrestled about the same time. So we had a conversation in the locker room after. But Adam was a good guy. Like, I mean, like I said, we met 3 times. They were all very close like this, all 3 of them. Multiple situations, not exactly like that, but pretty similar. So it was kind of like, we both knew what we were going into. So we had definitely, he knew if he let me get out on that one part, he was probably not going to come back. They were all low scores, really like just grinded out kind of matches.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing about getting this far. You got to be able to pin, you got to be able to defend, and you got to be able to know when to get the points when you can. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to, like in baseball, manufacture a run. It may not be the prettiest thing in the world, but as long as you get a run across, that's what matters. And here, I mean, you were able to get the 5-3 decision, man. But thank you for taking the time today to do this. The expanding the Zoom has made this possible, because I'm not going to say, where you live, but you live a pretty good drive away from Martin County now. So, we was able to get some connections and able to get up with you and get this done. And I know I'm trying to get all the Martin County state champions, Martin County Sheldon Clark state champions that I can get with, just because of, my part of the state. Want to represent Eastern Kentucky as best as we can.
Oh, yeah.
So, man, but do you have anything to say, anything to wrap this one up?
No, I really the culture at Sheldon Clark was very, very focused on taking care of that wrestling stuff. I mean, I remember sleeping overnight on mats in the middle of winter for practice and like waking up and practicing the next day kind of stuff. Coach Matney really, put a fire into us. It
Yeah.
was pretty awesome. And I was sad that I moved away the next year. That's why you never saw me again. I moved back with my parents, so I was never there again. And actually, it's one of those really good memories in general. It was a real awesome experience. I really enjoyed living in Eastern Kentucky. There were a lot of good friends I still have to this day. And I really, thank you for reaching out for this because it's good to relive these kind of memories from,
Yeah,
way
man.
back when.
I can imagine. We've heard some stories about I guess the overnight staying overnight practice first thing in the morning, or staying overnight to school and getting on the bus, and nobody would miss you can't say you didn't have a ride or whatever. And
Yep.
so,
Uh,
but we'll leave those one day for like an uncensored video or something, put it
it's
behind
all
the
good.
paywall, because some of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stories that come out of there, we can't, YouTube would demonetize us if
Oh,
we,
I know.
we would put them on there. Man, again, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. We know the Sheldon Clark, Martin County crew is going to really getting to see you. And that's what I'll say this, and I'll wrap it up, is in other videos, I've said, you go into a gym, you go into a school, like Sheldon Clark used to have those banners back on that back wall,
Yep.
had the Cardinal in the singlet and all that. And like you would see, Bruce Stepp,
Yep.
92, 93, 94, Chris Goss, 91, Jeremy Rose, 96, 97, Scott, and being able to put the name that was on that banner, or the name that's at the end of a bracket on the KHSAA website with, Scott Rhodes, 1996, and see what you actually done, and see
Mhm.
your wrestling, being like, wow, man, it's cool to finally put some mat time with that person's name. I think that's been one of the most fulfilling parts of this. There's been a lot, the memorial videos that we've been able to do, people's family, that have passed away, and we've been able to
Yeah.
put their videos out, stuff like that. That's fulfilling in itself. But then for the next generation
Oh,
to
yeah.
see, hear the stories about whoever it may be, whatever school, whatever year, but to finally sit down and be able to watch them and be like, I could probably beat that guy.
And it's funny because, like, if you realize who my wrestling partners were, it was mainly Jeremy and Josh Stepp. Like, those
Oh,
were my
were they
two
really?
wrestling partners. It's like the three of us all ended up winning wrestling
Yeah, I was
championships.
going to say,
And
that's,
Josh Stepp, yeah.
if you're going to have some wrestling partners, Jeremy Rhodes and Josh Stepp are two of the best you could possibly have. And I would say
Oh, yeah.
Josh Priest was in there too, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, he was too. I'd wrestle with him from time to time, but I was a little bit heavier than him. He was there wrestling in
Okay,
the lower weight class, if I remember
I
that
got
time.
you. And Josh Stepp, 1999, Josh Priest, 97, 98,
Yeah.
Jeremy, 96, 97. Of course, so that's a pretty good practice room.
Yeah, Jeremy and Priest wrestled a lot, and I wrestled Josh primarily. And yeah, we got into some altercations.
I can believe that. I'll make sure when I post this to tag Josh Stepp in it, because Josh's video is on the channel, and he of course, he won most outstanding in 1999.
Oh, yeah.
Well deserved. I mean, he was on fire that 99.
Oh, he's
So
a good dude, yeah.
what would that have been? 96, 97, 98? So you would have been, I
Senior
guess,
year.
the same grades as
Same
Josh.
grade.
Now hit me. Wow. All right. Well, man, that's all that we have. Again, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. To you guys, we'll see you on the mats.
All right, thank you.